Hello and welcome back. Let's solve some more FRQs. Today we're going to do, or this video, we're going to do tables FRQ, which is going to ask you to write a whole class to yourself. So this is going to be similar to other ones, but this one is, we get to do a whole class example, and it's going to be lots of fun. So let's jump into it and get to that now. Please excuse the school bell going off in the background. We're still running school here. All right, so let's look at the question and let's break through and break it down what we're going to be doing here. Okay, so single table represents a table at a restaurant. Okay, we have a class here called single table. Now, I'm going to just take a look. It's as we see implementation not shown, it means it's hiding a lot of the details of what these are doing, but all we need to focus on is inputs and outputs, right? So we have the name of a method. Usually the name is going to describe kind of what it's doing. And then the inputs, in this case, no inputs here. And the outputs is an integer. So get number of seats. And so this is a table, all right? We were talking about the table. How many seats does the table have? We can get the number of seats here. The height of the table in centimeters, okay? We can get the height. And view quality, okay? So here we have a double. The quality of the view from this table. Okay, interesting. Also no inputs. And here we can set the quality of the view. So now we can give it an input of a double and it will change the value of that view quality. Okay, so we have get methods and we have one set method. Okay, so we'll need to write a different class though. That's the class that we've been given. At the restaurant, customers consider tables that are composed of two single tables pushed together. You will write a class, combine table, to represent the result of combining two single table objects based on the following rules and examples. A combined table can seat a number of customers that is two fewer than the total number of seats in its two single table objects to account for seats lost when the tables are pushed together. A combined table has a desirability that depends on the views and heights of the two single tables. If the two single tables of a combined table object are the same height, the desirability of the combined table object is the average of the view qualities of the two single tables. If the two single tables of a combined object are not the same height, the desirability of the combined table object is 10 units less than the average of the view qualities of the two single tables. So we're given kind of these are the rules, these are the formulas. We're going to, you can probably, if you have a notepad, I'd be writing these down, jotting them down on the pad, but I'm going to probably just take them straight from here. Assume single table objects T1, T2, and T3 have been created as follows. Okay, so here we have some examples. This helps you spell it out. Okay, so one thing to look at here before we go through it is to look at the chart. What you'll see here is we have a combined table object, that's the object, and we'll be building this class here. Combined table. Take a look, okay? Firstly, this is the constructor, right? We're going to be building this constructor. It's taking T1, T2. So it's taking two tables. Okay? So when we make our constructor in a minute, we're going to need to build a constructor that takes two inputs as tables. We also have CanSeat, right? Here's a method. So that's a method what we need to write. CanSeat, get desirability. CanSeat, get desirability. Set view quality. That's the table object. Okay, and get desirability. Okay, so we have a number of methods that we'll have to be writing. Okay, so I'm going to jot those down, in fact, right now. I say CanSeat. So let's go to I've just taken the question thing, I put them in a thing, in a little space here. Now, you'll be writing this down, of course. You'll be writing just this class here, but I'm just noting down that I'm going to write the whole class. I need to write some methods here. So when we're writing our classes, obviously to write a whole class, there are three main parts to it. One is the data or the instance variables. The second part is the constructor, or how we build constructors. And the third part is the methods. And so in this section, we just saw that there were a number of methods which I needed to pay attention to, right? So I needed to pay attention to a couple of these methods, like, for example, CanSeat and getDesirability, right? So I'm just going to write that down here, CanSeat. So it's going to be like public. I don't know if that's can. Can sounds like a Boolean. CanSeat, and it looked like it took an integer, right? Int. I'm just going to say n for people. Int and people. All right. So that seems like that's one of my methods that I need to write. Another one might be, what's this? GetDesirability. Okay, so I'm just gonna write that down as well. No inputs. GetDesirability. Now desirability, if I remember from here, was desirability was, what is it? Oh, okay, so desirability was the average of the view quality. So we're talking about qualities. I think those were doubles. So I'm going to assume that that's a double 2. I'm going to say public double get desirability. Is it? Desirability. Note that you won't get any. I don't think you get penalized for those, but I can go and quickly check. Desire, no E. Okay, this is bad. My part there. Okay, there we go. So desirability. Okay, so I'm assuming that those are my methods. Do I see anything else? Okay, so I can also add while I'm here. Let's add a constructor. We know the constructor is basically just public, and then the name of the class combined table. And as I noted before, it takes T1 and table T2 as the inputs there, right? It takes 2 tables as its input, as I noted here in the first one here. Now I called mine T1, T2. It's called them T1, T2 here. They're just examples. I can call them anything. What's most important is these are both table objects, okay? A combined table is composed of 2 single table objects. Okay, so the key here is now we're going to go through and create this. I'm going to get to the rules a little bit later. Okay, I'm building the structure now, and while I'm continuing to build structure, I now need to kind of save some data. Right, this is going to require some data storage in my combined table. So I need to know, I'm going to have some desirability here of what the table is. So if I'm going to get the desirability, it means I must have it. It's a double, so I'm going to say double desirability is my instance variable, right? That's where I'm storing my data for how desirable the table is. And now a combined table, it says here, is composed of 2 single table objects. Okay, so I assume I've got 2 tables coming in. These are my inputs here, taking 2 tables. So how am I going to save them? I need to save them into some table objects. So table 1 and table object table 2. Okay, but it's not table. That's kind of incorrect. What is it called? It's a single table. So actually it's should be calling it table means nothing. Single table is the name of the class. So single table name of the class. Same here if you're shouting at the screen. I'm fixing it now. Single table. Okay, so this makes more sense. I've got 2 single table objects and we're saving it there. Okay, good. I'll save that too. So now that I'm just going to save these to make sure that it's popping up. It should be showing it. Okay, well, it doesn't highlight it, but we can now see that I'm saving this data. So I want to save, these are like the input buckets that I'm trying to save it's getting passed to the constructor. I'm now going to save these into my table 1 and table 2. So now I'm going to go table 1 equals T1 and table 2 equals T2. Okay, so that's sort of started my constructor off. Now, again, like I said, this is building structure. I'm just building the basics of what a class needs. It's going to be a little bit more complicated than that because we need to update some details about how many people can seat. So a combined table can seat a number of customers that is 2 fewer than the total number of seats in its 2 single table objects. Okay, so how many seats, right? So basically, if I look at the single table object, I had num seats, or I get num seats. I would assume, even though it doesn't show us here, I would assume that there's a variable in there, an instance variable, and I'm just going to write it in there. You don't need to, but I'm just going to write it. I would assume that in here would be an int num seats variable, right? Which is storing the amount of seats that the table has. I don't need to worry about what that variable is because it's hidden for a reason. I mean, I don't need to see it. It's probably private. Int num seats. Okay, and all I'm doing is I'm going to be using this method to get that number, right? All I need is to know is the method. So this brings me to one part where I may have lost point if I submitted it, is that my instance variables need to be all private, okay? So if you're shouting the screen again, make your instance variables private, then yeah, you're right. You can stop shouting now. So here, I've made them all private. That will get you a point. I'm pretty sure they're checking for that in the answers, right? So now I've got my private instance variables. Now what I need to do is, while I'm making my new table object, I need to initialize the number of seats. So I'm going to add another private int num seats variable here. We're just going to store how many seats this combined table object has, and num seats is going to be initialized here. Let's save it, right? So it's going to be the table1 seats, right? Or I can use either one, T1. That's my input. T1 dot, now how do I get the seats? I use get num seats. So T1 dot get num seats plus T2 dot get num seats, and it's -2, right? Because the question said minus the 2 seats when they're joining tables together. Okay, so now my get num seats here is fixed. So therefore, I think that's right. Now, do I need to return? Okay, so let's see. Before I get to desirability, do I have? So there is no get num seats here, but we do have a method here with CanSeat, right? So the CanSeat, it seems, will take a number and return if people can sit there, right? So if can 9 people sit at this one if it has 12 seats, right? So here it's saying since 2 tables can have a total of 12 seats, 12 minus 2 would give us 10, and so it can seat 10 or few, so it would return true. Okay, so now I've already kind of done my logic here of fixing up the num seats. Okay, you know, maybe that wasn't even necessary. Maybe I could have just taken my table 1, table 2, and then done my formula that way. That might be another way to implement this this situation. But here I've already got my num seats, so I could just say if people is less than or equal to num seats, then return true, else return false. Easy. Okay, So that's one way to do it. Now, let's say, for example, I didn't initialize num seats and I didn't do it this way. I didn't bother with this stuff here, and I didn't save an instance variable here. Oopsie. I didn't save this instance variable here. Let me erase that. So let's just say I didn't go that extra work, and instead I need to get it from my table object. Well, I would just do the same thing, right? I would come up with a formula for how many seats, right? So I'd start by saying seats equals, and then go table1 dot get num seats plus table2 dot get num seats. That was the name, right? Get num seats, yep. And then minus 2. Now I've got the number of seats on the table. And so now I can just do the same thing again. If people, and I can just change that to seats here. Right? If people less than equal to seats, then we can seat them. Okay, else return false. Now you say, why isn't there a curly bracket there? It's optional. An else statement or an if statement will process the first thing up to the semicolon, but for convention, let's do it the right way. Let's just not make some messy, lazy code. There we go. So here, that seems like CanSeat method is working pretty well. Let's move on to desirability. And how are we doing for time? The time is a factor. I think we're at 17 minutes here. So I think 30 minutes probably per question. If you get 3 questions to do and you have like 30 minutes each, that's okay. I would aim for 20 and then give yourself plenty of time for revising. So, but with my explanations, maybe it's going to take a little longer, but let's pump through this. So we're almost there. I think get desirability is another different formula, so let's take a look. Okay, so a combined table has a desirability that depends on the views and heights of the 2 single tables. Okay, so same heights. So if they're the same height, the desirability is the average of the view qualities of 2 single tables. Okay, so let's deal with this one first. Okay, if they're the same height. So how do we know what the height is? Well, I think single table has given us some formula to get the height. So let's just say if the height's the same, so let's say here, get desirability, okay? So if table1 dot get height equals table2 dot get height, then let's return the average. Here, I'm instead of return, I'm just going to say double des. I'll say des for desirability, okay? And I'm not going to do it here as a instance variable. I'm just going to do it as a calculation. Get desirability. It'll be better to calculate this once and then save it in the instance variable, so you wouldn't have to calculate it every single time. But I don't know. Let's say tables change. So let's just we'll do it as a combined table object, and I'll calculate it each time. So here, desirability is what I'm going to return at the end. And so let's just calculate des. So des, if in this case it would equal table1 dot get height plus table2 dot get height. And these are methods, so please use the brackets. And then we're going to divide the whole thing by 2. Okay, the average of the 2 heights. These are returning doubles. Okay, we're dividing by 2. It should still be in double space. You don't have to worry about the wrong casting here because they're doubles, and it's going into double. Okay, if you're worried about that, just put a 2.0 at the end to be sure. But because these are already doubles, we're getting heights These are, in fact, let me check. They are height, right? Oh no, sorry, get height is an int. So we are actually working with int. So lucky I checked that. So here's some example where the question can trick you, and then what it's now testing you is, can you convert this this question to the right type. So because this was a because this was an int and this was an int, if I actually divided by 2, then I would be in a bit of trouble, because now I would lose, it would save it to an int first, and then it would save it into this des, which is a double, and that would lose data, right? Just as an FYI, I mean, this is for primitive type of thing, but when you're saving numbers in Java, it evaluates, piece by piece, right? And so if I'm doing an int and then plus an int, and I divide by 2 like that, this whole thing is going to say, oh, there's a bunch of ints working together. The only space I've got is like the 32 bits of space to save the value. So if the answer is like 10.5678, it's going to say, okay, cool, I've only got space to save an integer, so I'm taking 10, and all this stuff is getting lost, right? And so what we want to be doing is making sure that this whole calculation is getting saved into double space. And so that's why dividing by 2.0 will make that double, okay? So, handy thing to do. All right, so there's the des. If the heights are the same, what if they're not the same? Let's check what the question says. If 2 single tables are not the same height, the desirability is 10 units less than the average of the view qualities of the 2 single tables. 10 units less than the average of the view qualities. Okay, let's check the view qualities, shall we? Single table, view qualities, get view quality. Okay, so it's returning double, and it's 10 units less than the average of those 2. So let's go in here, and then we do our else statement here. Else, all right, and des equals, now table 1, get view quality, and then plus table 2, get view quality, and we're doing the average, so we're dividing by 2. Now these are already doubles, but I'm just going to divide by 2.0 anyway. And then it's minus 10, right? 10 points less than. Okay, and then we're going to return des. So we have a calculation now for 2 different formulas for getting the view quality. Alrighty. Okay. Now here, view quality, set view quality 80. Changing the view quality of one of the tables changes the desirability of C2, right? So this is, I guess, why saving the view quality or saving the desirability as an instance variable and only calculating it once is not ideal, because if I calculate it in the constructor here the first time, and then when I made the object, it was set, then it wouldn't be, if something changed about the table, then it wouldn't update that later. But now that I have it as a method, every time I run this, it will check the tables, check the heights, check the view qualities, right? And so it's going to be important, I think. Okay. Let me just run through the question, make sure I've got everything. So, CanSeat 18. Okay, combine table. get desirability, CanSeat alone. Yep, I think so. I think I've got everything here. This is an individual. Yep, you don't need to write it. Okay. So that should give you the right answer. I think that's all. We've done those two methods. Okay. So there are a few parts to this, but mainly, if you can work down in that sense, like work with the overview, the structure of the class first. Make sure everything's in the right place. The real details come in the formulas you're working with, but in general, that's the answer. Now let's go and see. Here's an example of a sample. Let's see how close I got to the. This is the answer from the scoring guide. I do want to point out that they do have a number of things which they show where the points come, and so if we run through this, we can sort of see where the points will have come. Do you declare the class header, class combined table? Okay, so did I do that in my solution? Class combined table. Yep, so I did that. Okay, constructor header, single table. Yeah, I almost missed that, but I caught it in time. Single table. Yes, right. So they're checking this name is the same as there, and that you've used the right constructor. Now here, you can also have done it like this: extends single table. Even if you do that, so it says that's fine if you've done that. Personally, I wouldn't have done that because I couldn't see the variables inside. Okay, but if you do notice, with the extension stuff, that single table had get height and get view quality and set view quality. So you would have inherited all of these things and get num seats. That may have been useful to have. I personally think it was just easier to write a combined table separately, unless I can see the details. Okay, but you still would have got the point. Now, let's see what else. Private. Okay, so here, private instance variables. Yes, they were important. Constructor initialize instance variables using parameters. So do you take the parameters here that are given in the constructor, and do you use those and save them into the instance variables? Okay, another point there. Let's see. Now, declares header boolean CanSeat. Okay, public boolean CanSeat. Yes, public boolean CanSeat, and in people. And do you call get num seats using that? So yes. Do you call get num seats on a single table object? Sure. Okay, so I call get num seats. Let's see, CanSeat returns true if the sum of seats of two tables is 2 minus n. Yes, so we've added that logic in there. So our logic is 2 minus n number of seats, so that's fine. So it says here that you can still get the point even if you call get num seats incorrectly. So what they're really checking for is, do you follow the logic even if you're trying to do the right thing, but you still mess it up how you're getting it? They will still give you points. So even trying counts. You can get partial points here. All right, double get desirability. Now get desirability public double. Okay. And it calls get height, get view quality on single table. So we do that. We call get height here, and we call get view quality on these tables as well. Okay. One little thing that I don't like about this code is that I don't like to call get height twice. In fact, that doesn't really. I don't feel great about that. What I would prefer to do is have a variable in here called t1h, and then in T2H, and then make that equal to table2.getHeight, and make this equals to table1.getHeight, because I don't like to have to repeat like these methods running again. So here they run twice. I don't like that. So here now I can replace this with T1H equals T2H. And I can also replace this again with T1H plus T2H. See how much cleaner that is? And I've only ever had to run getHeight once to do this. Much better. I think a much better, more elegant way to do it, right? So I much prefer that way. It's a bit cleaner. And also, if you think about this, your grader has to go and check that you've done these things. Now, if they see that, have you run getHeight? Yes, I have. Okay, so it's very easy to see. So you run getHeight, get view quality on a single table object. Yes. You can still get the points even if you call these incorrectly, I think. Okay, so I think there's possibility to get the points. So you won't get the point if you call those methods on something that's not a single table object. So if we've clearly got a table 1 and a table 2 here, which are single table objects from up here. If you call it on something else, then you maybe not get the points. All right, and yeah, so let's see what else. Okay, so I think we're pretty good there. Let's check and see the solution. So they've got private single table 1, and they've got tab 1, tab 2. They've saved them here, like what I did. CanSeat, take a value here. Now, they did the formula direct there, get num seats plus table 2, get num seats, minus 2 greater than equal to n. Now, did I do that? Let me check. CanSeat, where's my CanSeat? People. Okay, so I calculated my calculation here, minus 2, and then I compared here. Okay, so that was a slightly different implementation. I separated it out. This is just a combined one where they've said this one plus this one minus 2 is greater than or equal to the input. They've just put it all together, return true, else return false. Okay, so that's mine, done that one. The desirability, we got getHeight equals table 2 getHeight. And, okay, so I've made a huge error. I've done the average of the heights instead of the view quality because I did not read the question correctly. Oh, look at that. So here's me trying to tell you what the answers are, and I have made a mistake. So I should have read more carefully. Now you definitely must be shouting at the screen. So here, if the two tables are the same height, the desirability is the average of the view qualities of the single tables. And I have written heights. So clearly that is not correct. Okay, so this part here would need to be changed. Okay, so let's redo this one. Table 1.get view quality. And do this one. Table 2. Get view quality. And it's method. And it's a method here. Okay, so hopefully, I'm really hoping that I would have caught that. Now these are my two answers now that they're a little bit better. Do I get the right answer? So this is here. Obviously these are doubles now, so the divide by 2 isn't as important, the 2.0, because these are already doubles. And the difference here is that it's minus 10, right? So now my answer is looking much better, like closer to that, right? And all they've done here is they've returned it inside the if and else statement. So, not totally necessary to have a double des over here. As I'm only using get height once, then probably I could have put get height in here. So hopefully I would have caught that answer if I'd done my review and checked my answers and read through the questions again. Let's hope that I would have caught that. It's slightly embarrassing, but this is why we definitely need to check ourselves. However, that would have been only really, I guess, 1 point that I would have probably lost there out of all the points that were available. And let's see if there's a list. See, there we go. So 9 points, right? So your total score for this was 9 points. Maybe I would have lost 1 point for that, for not reading carefully. But there were a bunch more to be had. So don't think of these FRQs like all or nothing. That's where you can really, really lose big time. Try and think of these now as being like questions where you can just grab as many points as you possibly can. These FRQs are designed to be difficult and to take up a bunch of time, and it's not certain that you're necessarily going to finish all of them. And so really it's about grabbing all the points you can, trying to just follow the structure, write it out, and really just keep it simple. Most of these answers are going to be very simple, and they're not going to require a lot of individual answers, right? Like if you look at all of my answers that I did just now, they are, these answers are, each part is kind of short. Where I'm getting 1 point, I'm getting like, what's it, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 or 6 lines of code here, right? These, again, it's an if and else statement with a few lookups of like the other methods. So these are not too complicated questions, right? The whole thing is not that big. It's mainly getting the structure right and making sure that you're accessing things correctly in the right way. All right, I hope this has been helpful. I hope that my mistakes have been educational for you. I'll be back soon with more FRQs. Thanks for watching.